I wanted to print a set of dice to help my wife and I decide where to go to dinner. And I wanted to do it as a two-color print. And I did it 5 times faster than it would normally take. I'll explain it all on today's Filament Friday. If my wife and I decide to go out to dinner, we have our favorite spots, but which one do we choose? And so that becomes a discussion. So I thought maybe I could just make a dice to help us choose. But this is only 6-sided. I wanted 12-sided. And I wanted to do two-color so I could put the different types of food on here, like maybe Mexican or burgers or pizza. And so I wanted to do a two-color dice, but that would take a long time to print. This CHEP cube, which normally would take like 20 minutes to print in one color, took 4 hours to print it in multicolor. So how long would this take because it's a lot longer? Well, it turns out over 5 hours. But I found a really interesting 12-sided dice that prints flat and then you snap it together. I found this 12-sided two-color design, and this was very similar to what I wanted. So I took the file and I sliced it in Bamboo Studio because I want to print it on my A1 Combo for multicolor, and it said it would take 5 hours and 6 minutes. Then I found this foldable 12-sided design by Dario Caroli, and it's a little smaller than what I wanted, so I'll have to upsize it. But this is what I wanted to test. How long would it take this to print? Since it's flat, the colors would be basically just a few layers. Should be a lot faster. And looking at the 3D view, this thing is really interesting how it snaps together and how these little nubs lock. It's a great design. I like designs like this. I love creating products like this dice or even electronics. And if you need help with this, check out today's sponsor, PCBWay.com. PCBWay.com is a great place to take your idea and turn it into a product. They offer design services, electronics, software, even 3D printing design. You can get low-cost circuit boards, 10 boards for $5, and they'll also assemble them for you for a very low cost. They also offer CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, and injection molding. So if you need help turning your idea into reality, I suggest you check out PCBWay.com. Now back to this clever dice design. The first thing I wanted to do is see how well this thing snaps together. It says it would take 26 minutes to print, so that's pretty quick. And I chose to use some Prusa Lipstick Red PLA to try it out. I printed on my Prusa Core 1L, and this thing did a great job. So now the real test, how well does this thing snap together? And also, using PLA for hinges is not the best idea, but I'm only going to bend it once and then lock it together if this works. And what I found is the snaps are excellent. This is a really great design. The snaps go in pretty easily and line up nicely and then stay together. So this is really a clever design. Now, of course, I wondered how this would hold up to multiple rolls, dropping it on a table. And the hinges themselves, or the points where it flexed, you could see were actually stressed. But as I rolled this thing, it seemed to work really well. I didn't see it popping apart. So the next step was to make it bigger, and that's what I did. This thing is upsized 200%. And the snaps went together even nicer than it did as a small unit. But I did notice cracks in some of the hinged portions. So I decided to try and print it with PETG. In this case, I'm going to use some Prusa Orange PETG because PETG tends to be better for flexible hinges. It snapped together the same as the PLA, but I also noticed that the hinges were cracking in the same spot. So it wasn't a filament, so I'm just going to stick with PLA for now. I brought it into Tinkercad, and this is upsized 200%. And I've also added the letters or the names of the different food types for this dinner dice. But this I had to modify the original .stl file. And you may not know how to do this, so I'm going to show you how I did it in Tinkercad. I'm sure there's a million ways to do this, but this is how I did it. I took the original design and I made a copy of it, and then I made that into a hole. Then I brought a block that I'd flattened to very thin, 0.8 millimeters, and I grouped those together, and that gave me a template. And then once I had the template, I made that into a hole, brought that same plate across again, so it's a duplicate, and then grouped these two together, and now I ended up with individual shapes that'll fit inside of it and cover the numbers. So I just slid that over on top of it, grouped these together, and then I had the same design, upsized 200%, but with a flat, smooth top. I used a text tool and made the different food categories, and then I made it into a hole and duplicated it. Then I grabbed one of them and brought it to the top surface. Now this is flush with the top surface, so it's actually going to take away material. And then I made the other one into a solid using a red color. So now once I group them together, you can see it's cutting away the letters. So now I can bring the red solid one across and it'll drop into those cutouts. So now I have an insert. These are the different colors that will print separately from the main design. Now I grabbed everything and I used the bundle group tool, not the union group, so it's still separate pieces. And then I exported a .stl file and brought that into Bamboo Studio. I'm going to print this on my A1 Combo that does multicolor. And so now I grabbed it, and with the right click, I could get to the split menu, and I split it into parts. So now all the lettering and the base are still separate. You can see them all here in the list. But then I just found the bottom was the base. So that's the one I wanted to change to a different color. So I changed it to a different color, and now you see the words are coming through in the red versus the blue. And so now I could slice this, but I flipped it over so the letters are on the bottom, not on the top. And then I could slice it, but I want to get rid of that tower. I don't need the tower for this simple design. So I went into others and I disabled the tower. So it'll print a little bit faster and to me a little bit cleaner, a little less wasted plastic. Now this takes only 1 hour and 10 minutes, far less than that multicolor cube that I showed at the beginning. And here's the results. This thing looks really, really good. The letters all came out nice and clear, easy to read, but I realized I forgot to put something on the top and bottom. So I went back and fixed that in Tinkercad, and here's the full design with 2 extra categories of food. And all it did was basically add 1 minute to the print, but everything looked really good, so now I wanted to print this again. On my A1 Combo, I've installed the BQ Cryo Grip Glacier bed. It does a great job of holding the plastic, especially those small details of these letters. Here's the finished print. The snaps look really good, and the top of it is excellent. The words are very easy to read. The detail is very, very good. So now I need to fold this together and see if it snaps together like the other ones did. And I fully expect this to work. But I can feel a little more resistance in the plastic I'm using here. And frankly, it's an off-brand that I just had in the printer, but it is PLA. And it seems to be working pretty well, although I am seeing that the hinges or where it hinges is already discoloring from the force of flexing this. Now, if you wanted to make this more permanent, you could just use a glue of some type, maybe the gloop that's out there for holding this type of thing, or just some, super glue or something. But these snaps hold so well, I don't think you're going to need to do anything. And that those hinges, the color that it's making, because it's deformed, actually gives it a unique look. And the final one snapped together, and this thing was solid, very, very solid. And now I had a dice that I could roll to help me decide what meal I should eat. Now I tried rolling it several times to make sure it would stay together, and also wanted to make sure that the same food isn't coming up over and over. First time was steak, which is fine with me, then pizza, and then it said sandwich. So I was happy with the results, so I went and printed another one, only I reversed the colors. And this was pretty easy to do because it's the same file, I just selected different colors on the printer. So now I've got one for my wife and one for me. So we can each roll, and then we get 2 choices, unless we roll the same thing. And then we can decide like between Chinese or seafood, or we can choose between pizza and burgers. So it gives us 2 choices rather than just one. So we still have to make a decision, but it's more fun this way. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Big shout out to my Patreon supporters. Your support makes all these videos happen. So thank you very much. Thanks for watching. And here's a few other videos you might like. If you want to help support the channel, Patreon's the best way to do it. And if nothing else, click on that logo and subscribe. I'll see you next time right here at Chuck Hollenbach's Electronic Products and Filament Friday.